the info. I'm your host, Hamptonio. To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate power. And to manipulate power is to manipulate possibilities. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. Hey, Cleveland. Are we in February? Really? Because I take it the weather's been just marvelous thus far. That means the closer, more and more days go, the closer to that spring and that summer. And that's when us melanated people get all that good energy. That good energy when energy and comes back to the planet, and we get around that equinox and then the summer solstice, and we all feeling good, us melanated people. And don't forget to take your vitamin D. Bone up on your vitamin D, because this climate is not the best climate for melanated people to be in. There's over 100 something or more ailments come from a lack of vitamin D, and us black folks need that vitamin D. So bone up on your vitamin D. Got a great show for you today, but in our remote studio, we got our co-host, Brother Vince. What's going on?
Well, we have a great show lined up for you, as you said. Two very distinguished and two very special guests. One is the Chief Cultural Strategist for the City of Cleveland. It is a newly created position, and we are so happy that she is in this position. And we also have someone who is the President and the CEO of the Assembly for the Arts, which is an arts advocacy and research group here in Cleveland, doing amazing things. There is a connection between the City of Cleveland and the Assembly for the Arts, and we're going to talk about that. And we are going to talk about the Transformative Art Fund. So I am hoping that the artist community will tune in, plug in, and do what they can to take advantage of this great and special program that we have. So with that, I'd like to welcome Rhonda Brown, Chief Cultural Strategist for the City of Cleveland. Rhonda, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. And Jeremy Johnson, the President and CEO of the Assembly for the Arts. Full transparency, I'm serving on the board of the Assembly for the Arts, so I have a very close connection to this brother. And I will tell you this too. I was the one who initiated the motion to give this brother a raise. So Jeremy,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Look, I had my feet on the starting line, man, and I had to jump forward just to make sure that we could do that. Of course, it was a unanimous decision. You've been here for 2 years. You've been doing some great things, and we're going to talk about some of the things that the Assembly is doing as well. But let's start with Rhonda Brown. Rhonda, give the listening and the viewing audience a sense of who you are and how you ended up as the Chief Cultural Strategist for the City of Cleveland.
Sure. Thank you, Vince. So I am originally from the city of Cleveland, born and raised in Shaker Heights. And for the last 6 or 7 years, I had been coming home to take care of my parents, Ernestine and Malcolm Brown, who ran the Malcolm Brown Gallery, which was located at the corner of Chagrin and Warrensville in Van Aken. And I fell back in love with this city when I was coming home to take care of my parents, and decided that I wanted to really be in the city of Cleveland, permanently after my youngest son went to college. And so I started to network with lots of different people, and I found out about this opportunity. And I applied on the city website, and I was blessed to be able to take on the role of Senior Strategist for Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy for the City of Cleveland, which is the first ever role to create and set the cultural arts and creative economy strategy for the city, which is very exciting given my family background and history.
Okay. I think it's really important to underscore the fact that this radio program deals a lot with art and culture. One of the things that Brother Hampton is really passionate about is the role of culture in the lives of African Americans. And so we talk about it a lot. So I really think that it's a great thing that here it is Black History Month, and I'm with both of you today to talk about culture. there was something called the American Rescue Plan Act. And as a result of that act being created, there were stimulus dollars that were passed out to cities across the country. Last year, a year before, Jeremy Johnson was involved in a campaign to lobby for the use of those funds. And I think the request, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was for 3% of those funds. And it was a figure of around $10 million. It was a really lofty ask, considering the fact that so many people would like to see those funds go towards public safety. But we pressed hard, and we made our request, and we walked away from the table with $3 million. The result of that is that those funds have been awarded to the Assembly for the Arts to be distributed for this Transformative Art Fund. So I'm going to come to you in just a few moments, Jeremy, but if you could, Rhonda, could you talk about the Transformative Art Fund and what it is intended to do for Cleveland?
Sure, sure. So the Transformative Art Fund is a $3 million fund that was initiated through ARPA dollars, as you've mentioned. And the legislation was created and approved for this fund, I believe, in October of 2022. Long before I started. And that legislation incorporated a couple of really important points. One is the formation of a committee, which that committee was aligned to, set forth, the infrastructure for how the Transformative Arts Fund would be administered, and then also the legislation was very clear in how it is to be expended. So the dollars were to go to a institution, private, public, not-for-profit, CDC. It was very clear that within this legislation that the dollars had to go to these types of entities. And so this committee and myself, we started working in September. My first day of work was July 24th, 2023. We started in September, and we've been working very hard to create shape to the fund. And I'm so pleased that on January 31st, excuse me, we were able to launch the fund, which very clearly has guidelines that incorporates a couple of things. One, we as a committee were very clear about what was what did transformative mean, and wanted to define that together. And so we thought about the dollar amount that we would incorporate to ensure that these projects were indeed transformative. So given that we had to ensure that the dollars went to artists, we added a component to the infrastructure that a lead artist has to is submitting the application and in partnership with the institutional partner. And there's an opportunity for 6 to 12 awards in the amount of $250,000 to $500,000 to launch a very special public art initiative within the city of Cleveland. The artist must be from the city of Cleveland, and the institution must be also from the city of Cleveland.
Okay. So, Jeremy, I want to come to you and talk to you about the role of the Assembly for the Arts. Because I'm on the committee and because I'm also connected with the Assembly for the Arts, I've been privy to some of the things that have taken place. But last week, there was a city council meeting in which there was a vote that resulted in the transferring of those funds from the city of Cleveland to the Assembly for the Arts. So could you talk about the role of the Assembly in the Transformative Art Fund?
Thanks, Vince, for your leadership on so many levels related to creativity and to our communities. Yes, last week, City Council, led by our fearless Councilman Kevin Conwell, he has a committee called Health, Human Services, and the Arts. They first met last week to move this forward. Then there was another committee meeting at the Finance Committee, and then ultimately the entire council, led by Council President Blaine. I think it's important for the listeners to know that this was not a fait accompli for them to select assembly or to select a nonprofit to do this work. But the council people, they debated and they realized for this Transformative Arts Fund to be effective, it needs to go to a group that can get the dollars out the door to creatives. Typically, government contracts, government formats, they look for work to be completed, and then after it's done, they will reimburse. But I was thrilled to sit at the table with Councilman Conwell and others who said, this has got to be different. We need to get these dollars out first because creatives live different kinds of lives. And the nonprofits, they can't float dollars of this amount and then be reimbursed. And I just I want the listeners to know that the council people realized in passing this vote, this is going to be different in supporting artists and creatives and also supporting nonprofits. So we're thrilled at Assembly. We have a two-pronged mission to expand the resources for our arts and cultural sector and to increase equity within the sector. Pushing this forward, working in partnership with Rhonda, was so critical. And I just want to give props to the City Council for understanding that we needed to do this differently so that we can engage our creative community. You're speaking, Vince, but we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
All right, I muted my mic so I could type your name in. Rhonda, last week something very special happened in Cleveland, and that is an exhibition that is up on the walls at Cleveland City Hall on the second floor. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that there has been an exhibition of this nature that has focused solely on the talent and gifts of African-American artists residing in the city of Cleveland. It seems like this is kind of an inauguration of your role here in the city of Cleveland. And I'm sure you have some thoughts about what the future of art and culture look like in Cleveland, specifically with an infrastructure developed to support the kinds of things that were accomplished last week. Can you talk about what you see as the future of Cleveland as it relates to art and culture and the role of city government in that?
Sure. So you're right, Vince. We did have, we launched the opening of Discover the Promise Impact, Legacy and Perspective, which included 57 beautiful works of art by African-American artists from the city of Cleveland and surrounding areas that were both emerging, mid-career, and very distinguished careers, some who are no longer with us, in partnership with the Artist Archive of the Western Reserve. It was a wonderful exhibition. There was about 300 people that came to the opening of the exhibition. Steve Litt from The Plain Dealer came and did a review of the show. And, in terms of, thinking through what are the opportunities for leveraging this type of excitement for work, arts, and culture, the sky is the limit. There is so much that can be done within our community. And there's such a wide range of artists that, really want to grow and expand the depth of their work. And so I'm just looking forward to building out that strategy. The first effort that I managed or oversaw was the creation of the Transformative Art Fund in collaboration with the committee, council, and a variety of folks. The next component of my work will be building out a strategy. And what we're, thinking through is how can City Hall be an institution that always incorporates artists in everything it does. And that reflexive relationship also is very important. And so I'll be looking at and thinking through how to do that from for throughout this work for, the next year and a half.
Okay. When we talk about artists, sometimes we kind of, I guess, pigeonhole art being the visual. And when we look at this Transformative Art Fund, obviously we want to kind of expand that vision. So can you talk about the expanse of art that could be involved in the Transformative Art Fund?
So when people tend to think about public art, you tend to think about murals, which is a wonderful component of public art. But we wanted to ensure that the range of mediums were incorporated into this opportunity. So we are hoping that musicians consider applying, that we're hoping that writers, poets, etc., consider, thinking through what kind um, of project that they could create that lends itself to the public domain, but incorporates the spoken word or writing, culinary arts. We have expanded this out beyond visual arts to incorporate the wide range of artists that exist in the city of Cleveland.
Okay. Jeremy, heading, being that you are heading an organization that advocates for artists, could you talk about what some of the needs of artists are, and how Assembly is going about addressing those needs? And then after that, we're going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the Transformative Art Fund and how people can kind of plug into the apparatus that's there for them.
Absolutely. It was earlier this year that we did a survey of artists with funding from Cuyahoga Arts and Culture that really sought to dive deeper into what are the needs and what are we hearing from creatives. And a couple things did stand out. One, the need for more unrestricted funds and an increase in the amount of funds, public funds, that are awarded to artists. Certainly, this Transformational Artist Fund is a huge increase. At the size of these grants, I don't think we've seen them in recent memory ever in the city of Cleveland. But even on the other side of that, we are doing some other grant funding for individual artists that is expanding, enlarging the types of funds. The other thing we heard about the needs, a need to increase overall support for artist funding, even beyond Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. And this is a perfect example of that. The other thing we heard from artists is a need to create virtual spaces where they one-stop shopping for finding the what are the resources out. And we're thrilled to be partnering with Cuyahoga Arts and Culture and revamping our website so there's one-stop shopping around how can an artist or creative find out where can they tap into different kinds of resources. So those are some of the needs. Obviously, a need to gather and to network. It's right in our name, Assembly. Oftentimes we hear, unfortunately, Clevelanders in various disciplines, they feel like what connects them to other creatives. Depending on which discipline you're at in Cleveland, that could be more challenging and more easier. And we want to be a facilitator of that. So those are some of the needs, Vince.
Yeah. I attended a networking event a couple of Mondays ago. I think it was the Monday that preceded the announcement of the Transformative Art Fund. And it was really rewarding and refreshing to see the synergy that was there. The attendees were engaged and they were learning about resources, partly due to the fact that Deirdre McPherson, who is the chief community officer for the Assembly for the Arts, was there, and she was able to talk about some of the things that the Assembly is doing. You mentioned Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, and I'm privy to the fact that $500,000 has been moved from CAC to the Assembly, and so Assembly will take a role in dispersing those funds, and hopefully some of those funds will be the unrestricted funds that you talked about. Yes.
I'm nodding my head because many of those funds are. We hear you loud and
Yeah.
clear, and I would encourage folks to visit, in addition to visiting the city's website for the Transformative Art Fund, they could also visit assemblycle.org, assemblycle.org for more information.
Absolutely. So Rhonda, let's jump into this Transformative Art Fund and how folks can go about applying for these funds. It's not going to be small peanuts. We're talking about $250,000 to $500,000. There are some ways that they can find out what they need to know in order to move forward. So let's give them an idea of what that might be.
Sure. May I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Let me just get to share. Can you see that?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So the Transformative Art Fund is on the City of Cleveland's website. The if you go to Cleveland, Ohio, /City Hall, /Office of Mayor, /TAF, or if you search in your Google or any other search engine for the Transformative Art Fund, City of Cleveland, you should be able to find it. There is lots of really good information here on the site. And first and foremost, there are some important application dates. The applications are due on March 30th. And that portal will close at 11:59. And we are encouraging interested artists and interested institutional partners to review the website. Ensure that you go to how to apply. There are details and guidelines here in the website. We have all the templates that the lead artist can look through, and all of the eligibility requirements. Important to this initiative, we are giving projects special consideration that focus on vacant land reutilization, the environment, food insecurity, violence prevention, matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion, safe spaces in Cleveland, and the social determinants of health, Black maternal fetal health, as well as smoking cessation and physical and mental health. And so there's lots of ways in which the artists can coordinate and connect with this website. As I said, the guidelines are here. We've got lots of FAQs, and most importantly, on this this cover page, we have 6 virtual information sessions. The first one is this Tuesday at 4:30. We incorporated the information sessions at different times of the day so that we can get a cross section of participation. So there's 4:30 to 6:30, February 13th, 6 to 7:30, February 15th. We're doing a Saturday from 9 to 10:30. On back to Tuesday, we're doing an evening from 6 to 7:30, and then we've got 2 afternoon sessions, which we're only going to run those for an hour. So all of the information that you need to apply is here on the website, and also there are 2 forms that interested artists as well as interested institutional partners can fill out, because we are seeing that artists have a really great idea that they want to connect with, but they're like, well, how do I reach out to an institutional partner? So we've gotten quite a few institutional partners that are interested in applying alongside the lead artist, and we will pass on that information to the interested artists and the interested institutional partners so that they can network and consider application together.
Could you talk a little bit about the why of partnership with institutions is important and how it relates to sustainability when it comes to the projects that could be created?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, the legislation requires that the dollars are awarded to a institutional partner. Um, and so, in terms of um, the why, we set it up so that the lead artist would have the opportunity to really engage and lead the initiative with the institutional partner. Um, and so what that looks like is which is a little bit different than maybe sometimes the way projects are concurrently running, that is that the institutional partner is driving. We are really focused on the lead artist driving the initiative and driving the project. And we require that the institutional partner produces a letter of support for the project and acknowledges that they understand what the art, what the plan for the art is, that they will follow and adhere to the budget as ascribed, and submit the expenses according to the budget that was submitted. So, does that answer your question about the why?
Yeah, it does. And to veggie back on that, I want to bring Jeremy in and talk about the assembly's role in this and the intentionality of not having an institutional partner eat up the award with administrative fees.
Yeah, I think Rhonda explained how important it was that this be artist-led. Any program that gets dollars into the public from a government entity or even from a nonprofit entity does require administration. And it's many nonprofits have to take on the costs. Assembly has taken on this partnership with the city at a below market rate. And we believe it's very much mission oriented, which is why we thrilled to be able to do this for a 3%. But we're going to go beyond. We went beyond with the original ARPA dollars that we worked with the county to not just put a website up and not just to say whoever sees this can apply, but we went above and beyond to engage the community. That's why we brought on Deirdre McPherson as Chief Community Officer. That's very intentional, that we double down on how are we getting the word out. So we will also do that with the Transformational Arts Fund, working in partnership with the city, so that the word is out. These virtual sessions, we will amplify the messaging. So that administration cost, it really goes above the fee. And while we do have to be prudent, I believe it's certainly mission central to Assembly to find whatever ways we can not only obviously administer the process, but go beyond in terms of amplifying, getting people to hear about it. So we're thrilled to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to disclose the fact that Assembly is a major part of the development of this program, just by virtue of the fact that Deidre McPherson is on the committee. Thanks to her, we'll be using an application called Submittable. And with Submittable, folks will be able to go in and start filling out the application and fine tune it and everything before they actually push that button to send it for the final time. So there's just a lot of work that goes into this. Assembly does a lot of research. I know in our meetings, we've talked about the importance of doing demographic research so that we can research areas of the city that have specific needs that need to be addressed. Rhonda, can you talk about the importance of having that awareness and taking advantage of the research that is available to us so that we can make sure that we focus our efforts on the areas of need?
Vince, I want to make sure I'm answering the question you asked. The research from Assembly to inform our decision making.
Yes, research from the assembly to inform the decision making, but also the information that is out there that comes to us by virtue of the fact that assembly is doing research and others. But I'm just aware of the fact that we know about resources that can get us to that detailed information about neighborhoods and communities and what the disparities are and how we can possibly address them.
Yeah. So inherent in the application is a requirement that, and you'll have to remind me the name of I think it's called the Center for Communities. There's a nonprofit in the city of Cleveland that we are ensuring that our applicants review that data so that they are familiar with their community, the community or neighborhood or ward where they're endeavoring to implement the project. Also, we are encouraging that our partners go to the City of Cleveland website to look at options for vacant land and other types of spaces that we have the resources for to potentially plan a project in a space that that is integrating some of the items that we've discussed. And I'm sorry if I'm just kind of rambling on. I think I'm not. I want to make sure I'm answering your question. So does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. I just want to make sure that folks know that this is just not a random type thing. The application is going to be challenging because it requires a lot of information, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's not intimidating.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why we're having these virtual meetings so that people can ask the questions that they need to ask in order
Yep.
to get clarity about what's being required. So it's not going to be easy, but we're talking about awards of $250,000 to $500,000. So this might not be as easy as applying for a grant opportunity at Neighborhood Connections or something like that, because of the fact that you have artists and you have organizations involved and you have so much on the table. And then there's that whole idea of accountability. As we sat in those city council meetings, we heard council people express their concerns about, well, what's going to happen to this money once it's passed out? And as we've talked about, the city's usual paradigm is that they provide reimbursement after a project is completed. But when we look at something on the scale of this, it would be impossible for artists to come up with the kind of money that would give birth to the ideas that they came up with. So it's really important. I want to bring in our brother Hamptonio to just get his perspective on what we're talking about, the fact that we are looking at addressing certain community needs. And he's somebody who was out in the community by virtue of his role, but he's also someone who is aware of the impact that art and culture have on us. So, Brother Hamptonio, what are your thoughts about what we're seeing here, what we're talking about?
Well, again, it's a very necessary program that our communities all over need, and dollars has always been the issue for putting on these particular programs, because let's just face it, our African American community has always been slighted and has been kind of like struggling to promote different cultural aspects in our community, and we all know those particular things that should be put out there can really help and define the community and bring us to a place that we are comfortable with ourselves. We're comfortable with our talented ones that need to be out there leading the charge and doing their job in actually bringing our our communities around to knowing what they are, and giving encouragement for those artists is that there is something out there that they can express themselves and share their gifts to the community. And second thing, I just want to reach out to both our guests to let them know that I started a collaborative, if you would call it, called the Inner City Juneteenth Coalition, where I bring in the African History Museum, the Cultural Gardens, possibly Fred Ward, Riddall, and things like that, to where we're actually putting on programs throughout the month of June. Carter G. Wush and the program that I started, that we put on programs throughout the month of June, not just during the Juneteenth day, that deal with empowerment, education, bringing speakers to town, African cooking classes, any other programs that we think is necessary. So, but we're kicking it off again with a parade in downtown Cleveland. Now, it's unfortunate. I don't know how long you've been away, Miss Brown, but we started these parades somewhere in the 2010, 2011 era. And unfortunately, it took a small organization like myself to actually bring a parade in the majority Black downtown city of Cleveland. So again, I want you guys just to be knowledgeable of that, and to, if you're coming across your travels, if you know different artists and different people who might want to be a part of the program, the parade that's going to culminate into a festival, hopefully on Mall C downtown, then definitely let me know, and so we can touch bases on it. The question I want to ask too, or a statement that might benefit our listeners, is that could you give us some examples, as well as some of the types of projects that may qualify, or just to give our listeners an idea of what they can do, or what you guys may be looking for as far as funding. Just some ideas or examples that you think that might be a good fundable programs.
Sure, I can start, and Jeremy, you can jump in with some ideas. We have thought about community gardens. We have thought about contemplative spaces for young girls that are safe spaces. Kind of creating spaces that that young people can go and play and feel safe. There is opportunity for culinary artists to think about food deserts and ways in which they can align their craft as culinary artists to transform a community through food. Certainly, there is many opportunities for the creation of wide-scale murals, and multiple artists participating to create those types of visual, walls that are always, just really characteristic of what public art can be in great cities. There's just lots of different ways in which we are encouraging artists to dream big about their communities, neighborhoods, and transforming those neighborhoods through their creativity.
Okay.
Jeremy, let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, because when we talk about doing these great things that revolve around art, there's always a question of who's going to pay for it. And for the past 10 to 15 years, we've had the benefit of revenues that come from the taxation of cigarettes. But we're also seeing that those revenues are declining. Of course, you are privy to the need for a levy campaign to support continuation of that. But we also, as I understand it, need to be looking at other ways to generate funding for the arts. Could you just give us an idea of what that landscape looks like, and perhaps what we're thinking about doing moving forward to increase the funding opportunities for the arts?
Yeah, absolutely. You described it as the elephant in the middle of the room. I think it's an elephant that we all need to have our eyes on. We have been very blessed and fortunate in Cuyahoga County to have a cigarette tax for almost 20 years, has helped to fund a lot of nonprofit organizations. The good thing is fewer people are smoking. We've known this, and as fewer people smoking, that pot has gone down precipitously. We need to look at other ways to beyond the cigarette tax. But in the meantime, that cigarette tax is expiring, so we don't want it to go away, all of it to go away. So we are working with Cuyahoga Arts and Culture and with county officials. They ultimately have to ratify putting something on the ballot so that we could expand the cigarette tax. We have that opportunity, and knock on wood, we're recommending November of this year where we can take that to the ballot. There's a lot of legal hurdles we have to jump through to get to there. One hurdle we've already fought for Cuyahogans to do, and that was getting permission from our state legislators. We had to do it twice. So Assembly has done that work. So we've got them to sign up and said, hey, Cuyahoga voters, we will allow you to vote on this. So we got that permission. But now we are raising the dollars so we can have a campaign, knock on wood, that would be ratified by our county officials so that we can go on the ballot in November. And that will give us some more millions of dollars worth of support over an additional 10 years to tax cigarettes again. But we cannot put all of our eggs in that one basket. And I think I want to leave your listeners with that. We have to look at some other sources. And I'm really thrilled that our friends at the Gun Foundation, Jennifer Coleman, she has gone public with the need to look at how other cities and regions are finding diverse ways to support the arts and culture sector. So we're now looking at the possibility of yet one more study, but I think it's going to be fruitful. How do we move beyond this wonderful cigarette tax, which has a shelf life that's discontinuing? So look for that in the next several months, how we research that, but get ready for November. And I'm very excited for those who think that this campaign has, I'm very excited to say that it is moving forward. The campaign is moving forward. We have leaders in our community, institutions, and now individuals are waiting in the wings. They literally have made contributions so the campaign will move forward. So I'm really thrilled about that. So get ready. There's more to come where all of us, our listeners and everybody, can play a role as we get ready in November.
Well, Jeremy, the other elephant in the room has been the relationship between the Assembly for the Arts and Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. And so we've had the controversies over the board meetings and so forth and so on. But I think perhaps, and this is just my perception of the situation as it stands, it seems as though that there might be some improvement in what we're doing right now, just so that folks understand that we are working on the same team and we're working for the benefit of artists and the general community. Can you talk about whether or not there has been any improvement moving forward and why we should be optimistic about possibly passing the levy?
I am definitely optimistic. Cleveland, Greater Cleveland, our region, we are full of many creatives and artists and even cultural institutions. They have been in this game a long time. The role of Cuyahoga Arts and Culture has been a critical role. And we've seen over the last several months, they even issued an apology for really the relationship that has been really difficult with individual artists. That happened at their last sport meeting. They've created some seminars for people to better understand how does the funding work there. They have increased by 25% funding of individual artists via nonprofits. So I think all of those are ways of saying that CAC, with these voter-led dollars, they are finding ways to work with Assembly and with our community to grow investment. And I think that's a very good thing. And I'm optimistic. So I want your listeners to leave this saying that we will find ways to work to continue to invest in the community.
Rhonda, I want to jump back to you and just talk to you about your vision for the future. Obviously, as Cleveland was going through the growing pains of having the Creative Workforce Fellowship Program and all of the things that happened that caused that program to shift to what exists now, you weren't really involved in that, but you have come back and you're in a place where you have an ability to affect how things go moving forward. And I'm sure you're aware of the funding issues and so forth and so on. But I just want to get an idea from you of what you see coming down in the future. And I know you don't have a crystal ball, so to speak, but I also know that you have a pivotal role in terms of how art and culture are shaped here in Cleveland. What's your vision for the future?
Well, you're right. I don't have a crystal ball, and I think that the future for the region, for the city, is very bright. Mayor Bibb is a champion of the arts, and he made a promise on the campaign trail to create this position, and he fulfilled that promise. And so it's really there's just so much opportunity, right, for growth and for funding and for engagement here in the city of Cleveland. And so, as I said earlier, I think the sky is the limit. And I'm really excited about staying in community with the wide range of artists, leaders, art, cultural institutions, etc., to just understand what the need is, right? And find creative ways to address the need. There is limitations that the city has, right? We are not a private funder. And so, there's a lot of opportunity to think creatively about ways to solve the challenges that the city has. Well, not the challenges, but the opportunities that artists have to grow their experience, to access full-time work in their area of choosing, etc.
Yes.
Let me jump in, Vince, on one thing here. And this is basically going out to our listeners. This is a great opportunity for, the people in our city to create viable programs, because culture is very important to a people. And what I would encourage, when we sit down and thinking about obtaining these dollars, to try to come up with programs that help sustain our neighborhood. Good programs, I mean, I want good programs. This is me talking. Good programs to help sustain our communities. Cultural programs that bring about the awareness that is necessary to take us to where we need to be, because we all know, and we know some of the things that are going on in our communities, far as, and a lot of it, by me being in the business that I'm in, a lot of it is a problem of self-love and knowing who you are and things of that nature. I'm a strong proponent for how you feel. If you feel better about yourself, you do better about yourself. So we put on programs that actually stem around that empowerment of giving that type of inspiration to the community and awareness of the community. I'm just saying to our listeners out there, think about some good things that we need as a community through the vehicle or through the path of arts and creative arts that could help stimulate and help transform our mindset as people, and bringing us back to some of the old ways of culture and having a village and being a village. And a lot of that comes from self-pride and knowing yourself, and knowing who you are as people. So I just wanted to put that out there as far as our listeners is concerned.
I also wanted to underscore the fact that I think we've seen some progress in terms of the way public officials are perceiving the importance of artists in our community. You know, I mentioned it at the top of the broadcast, the focus that we have on public safety. But one thing that has really been a part of my mindset as we look at the impact that artists have is that we're the ones that address the ills of society in a much larger way, because we can be proactive about dealing with the things that affect people that cause them to have to come under the purview of public safety institutions like the police. Uh, Jeremy, I want to talk to you just briefly about the paradigm shift, because you played a pivotal role in communicating with public officials, specifically the council folk and the city administration, about the importance of creating this fund. Could you talk about perhaps what you're seeing in terms of them finally beginning to understand how important artists are in our community?
Thank you, Vince. It's multi-layered. Yes, we are creating pools of dollars that are specifically around creativity and arts. And kudos to the city and to the mayor. We have county dollars from ARPA, but I would also encourage all of our creatives and arts to look at other things that may not say arts on the surface. You mentioned Mayor Bibb. He just committed millions of dollars in a violence prevention program from ARPA. I was thrilled to see there were a number of cultural organizations included in that. I maybe think ghetto therapy might have been one of them, but the creative sector plays a big role in how we prevent violence. And it doesn't just come through quote unquote arts and culture programs. We also have an opportunity to look at, there's this, the thing the mayor is talking about, shore to core to shore. You're going to hear that about how we invest in our waterfront and the river and the lakefront. Creatives will be and should be at the front of that. There are many ways that we can tackle how we improve our society, our neighborhoods, our communities, and creatives need to be at the table, and we have to insert ourselves. So it's not just about these quote unquote arts programs where creatives can play a role. I'm thrilled, for example, that we have 2 new board members who just joined. We have several board members, but among them, Alice Lucas Love, who's been playing a role with the riverfront, waterfront happening. We have Afi Scruggs, independent musician. We've got to be at the tables, and I'm thrilled that we're growing our board members to be more representative. Of course, your work, Vince. We appreciate it.
All right. Rhonda, I want to give you the last word here, and I want to encourage you to get better. I see you're struggling over there with the germs that are plaguing you right now. But any last words that you want to give the folks to encourage them to apply for these grants?
Well, before I give a last word, I'd like to acknowledge the committee, Vince Robinson, Deirdre McPherson, Maya Curtis, William C. Washington, Gwendolyn Garth, Letitia Lopez, and Gina Smith.
Washington.
Gina Washington, yes. Gina Smith is another friend of mine. I wanted to just acknowledge their hard work, their engagement, their time. This is a volunteer role, and we just really appreciate that they are so committed to creating shape to this fund. And I also want to say that this fund has the artist at the center of it. And what that means is it's a little bit different from the traditional funding mechanism. And we're really excited about seeing how this works. And, again, go to the Transformative Arts Fund website. Follow us on the City of Cleveland on Instagram, and come to our information sessions to learn about how you as an artist can be transformative in your creativity through this amazing and singularly, this program that is really intended to impact our neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland. So we're really excited about this Cleveland-centric creativity, and looking forward to all of the all of the applications and reviewing them, and you know, making decisions at the end of June, at
All
the
right.
beginning of June. Yeah.
All right. So we'll look forward to reviewing those proposals and getting the word out and letting everybody know who got the money, but more importantly, what they're going to do with it. Rhonda, I want to thank you for all the hard work that you've been putting in. Obviously, I want to continue to thank Mr. Johnson for what he's doing. He's ubiquitous. You know, before we got on the broadcast, I just cracked a joke that he and I are like Tyrone. Like we're clones in a certain way because we have to be everywhere. He does a great job, better job at it than I do. I will say, I will go ahead and admit that. But thank you for all the hard work that you do. We're going to post links to the Assembly for the Arts and the Transformative Art Fund in the description for this video. Shameless plug. Please like, comment, subscribe. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers on our platform and continue to do the work that we are doing right here at 360 Info Network. Big shout out to Hamptonio for creating this program. We got about 20, 30 seconds, brother. Anything you want to add before we conclude?
Just to remind people, give me a call, 216-323-6155 if you're interested in volunteering and putting your organization in the parade on June 8th. June 8th. Give me a call.
All right. Also, before we go, just know that you can go to the Transformative Art Fund webpage on the City of Cleveland website, and you can take advantage of it to see the virtual sessions that are going to take place this month. The first one is going to come up on Tuesday. So definitely jump in, take advantage of it, find out what you need to do to be effective in your proposals. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on 360 Info Network. Look forward to being with you next Saturday. As always, we thank our engineer, Tone Harley, for making this possible. And we thank you for being with us. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace out.
All right.